Okay, we're gonna get started. I'll let these guys introduce themselves. First of all, I think I asked once, but did everybody get their shirts already that are here? Okay, I know there's still one or two people that are not here, but hopefully they got them. I have cookies, pop, water in the back. These gentlemen take your first part of your session tonight. I have a couple other guys coming in, and I'll introduce those guys later. So, take it away, gentlemen.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Sergeant Todd Tuttle. I'm with the Marshalltown Police Department. I'm a sergeant here. I've been a firearms instructor for the department for about 7 years. I've been a rifle instructor for about 7 years. Currently, what he considers part-time on the SWAT team. I'm the SWAT sniper. I only go when the fun stuff is happening. That's right. I've got a background in military. I did 3 years in the Iowa National Guard's military police, and I did 5 years active Marines. Prior to that, I kind of did a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I worked down Swiss for several years and worked on computers, was an electrician, just kind of getting a feel for what I wanted to do in life. And I ended up here, and I kind of like it, so that's a little bit of my background.
Well, you guys heard me talk enough. I won't bore you with any of that. Again, Kyle Stevenson, if you guys don't remember, but I've been around enough, so I won't bore you with anything else.
Okay, I'm going to start off. I'm going to kind of show you what the weapons that we use. These are the pistols that we carry. We have a Glock 22, a Glock 23, and a Glock 27. They're all a little bit different sized. The two primary ones we carry on duty are the 22 and the 23. One's just a little bit smaller than the other one for a smaller person. What we have for backup, one of the options is a Glock 27, which is a smaller version. They all take the 40 cal round. They all use the same type of magazine. The magazine from this one will fit in these two, this one will fit in that one, so we can use the same magazines to interchange them if we need to. You can't take the smaller one and put it in the big one, of course, it just won't fit, it's not long enough. Keep all these open for safety reasons. I'm just sitting there. We carry the Remington 870 shotgun. This is a 12 gauge shotgun. We use either slugs or double-aught buck in it. This is one of our less lethal options. This would be a 12 gauge beanbag round. It's got like lead weights in it, wrapped in a cloth casing. Gives us a less lethal option. Officers are also have the option of carrying the M4 AR-15 style rifles. This shoots a 223 or 5.56. It's our long range choice.
All right, Sergeant Tuttle's talking about this is mostly like stuff that the patrol officers are going to carry. The other weapons down here are more specialized. These are more based around SWAT. Last week we kind of talked to you about some of these things. We just didn't get as much detail. As we go on, basically today we're going to give you some background, some safety type stuff, some general firearms information prior to going out next week and actually being able to handle the weapons and shoot the weapons, things like that. What we have here, we had this last time, again, Remington 870. The difference is we use this as a breaching shotgun. We talked about this a little bit last week. What the difference is, this is what you'd call like a sawed-off shotgun. There's no butt stock on here, so there's no place to actually shoulder mount this. It does have a pistol grip. The reason we have this set up like this is we use this to take out door hinges, if you remember us talking about that. And the reason is it doesn't make much sense to take a regular shotgun and try to hold it up like this. This gives you a pistol grip, you're able to control it, and you're able to come up because all of our shots are going to be like an almost straight up and down angle. So that's the reason we have this, and that's the reason you see the end of the muzzle here, this grip, so it can actually dig into a door and kind of hold itself in place so it's not wobbly. So that's the reason it kind of looks funny. So this isn't something we carry around and use for anything other than just breaching these doors. The next one over here, the MP5. This is what you call a submachine gun. This shoots a pistol cartridge, a 9mm cartridge, but it's a shoulder fire weapon. If you remember, last week I talked about the advantages of shoulder fire weapons as opposed to handguns. We increase accuracy and firepower when we have shoulder fire weapons. So again, we're not getting any better ballistics out of this gun than we would a 9mm handgun. more accuracy though. So able to get rounds on target a little bit faster and just a lot more stability, a lot more control over this gun. As you see on here, this is an EOTech sight. It's a red dot sight. The benefit of this is it's like a quick acquisition of target. So you can keep both eyes open and easily look through this reticle. You guys will get a chance to do this here in a little bit. You can take a look through it. I can turn it on for you. You can take a look through. You can easily pick up that target. And then below here is actually your sights. So this one has a circle aperture. You got a couple different options here, a turn in this, and then you got a front sight here. And the way it's designed, you can actually look under this sight to see your iron sights, or you can look over top and use this sight. So you got a couple different options with this one, with this weapon. Exact same thing. Also an MP5. The only difference is this one's actually a silenced one. And usually, you know, you see in the movies where they shoot and it just makes a little popping sound. It's a little bit louder than that, but mostly, depending if you use the right ammo and stuff, mostly what you're going to hear when you shoot this is just like the slide and the action moving. You're not going to actually hear the rounds coming out. So this one's a little bit more quiet to shoot, less chance of like hearing damage, things like that. So there's some definite advantages of having something like this. The other thing I didn't talk about on this one, submachine gun, kind of explains itself a little bit. It does have the option to go fully automatic. So with this silenced one, the SD version, you have an option to go single shot, or you have an option to go fully automatic. So when you pull the, I can't give you the actual rate of fire, you know.
You can dump 30 rounds in 3 seconds.
30 rounds in 3 seconds.
That gives,
that gives you an idea how fast it is. So if you remember me saying there's not almost any use for fully automatic in law enforcement, and we don't utilize it that way. This weapon is a very, very good weapon system. Using it on single fire or kind of a burst. And that's more so what we're going to use it on, but this weapon just happens to come with that option. That's just one of the options to it. So this one only has those two options, single fire, fully automatic. The other one over here, the non-silenced one, has, they have this is like cop proof here. If you guys see, it's got pictures on it, so then we can tell what it is. We can't mess it up. So you got single fire, and then you got a 2-round burst. So every time you pull the trigger, 2 rounds are going to go off, and then you got fully automatic. The benefit of the 2 rounds would be you're getting more rounds out quick, but you're also able to control it and maintain on target. If you shoot a fully automatic, do we normally do that in the demo?
Sometimes we let, yes.
So we might let a couple people
try it if someone wants to try it.
The problem is you burn through a lot of rounds and it's a waste of ammunition. It costs money. But we might let somebody try it so you can kind of get an idea. But it's hard to, unless you're really skilled with this weapon and really practice, it's hard to maintain on that target with fully automatic. So again, we don't really utilize that function, but it is an option out there. I'll let you talk. I don't know.
Okay, this is our precision rifle right here. This is a basically just a Remington 700 with a Leupold Mark IV scope on it. This is designed for accuracy. It's designed for putting, 5 rounds in a hole that big if you need to. This would come out in a special type of situation, hostage situation or something like that. But it shoots a 308 cartridge. Very powerful weapon. Okay, very deadly, very accurate.
You can ask them. I did talk you up. I talked your abilities up with that too. So.
Yeah.
You said a quarter to 1,000 yards.
Quarter to the scope. Unfortunately, the scope only adjusts out to about 300 yards, and after that, you're using Kentucky windage. And I've hit some at 1,000 yards, but you're finding the target and you're aiming up 33 feet in the air, guessing where 33 feet in the air is, shooting it, having your spotter call it, and you adjust from there, and just hope your rifle didn't move a fraction of an inch because that'll throw it off. So it does have the capability though, 1,000-yard shots if you got the right scope on it. So. But they wouldn't be that small. It'd be probably a 36-inch plate you could hit with at 1,000 yards.
Do you lose accuracy when you have the silencer on?
No, actually it doesn't affect the speed any, and it doesn't affect the accuracy. Some say it makes it maybe a little more accurate
Because of the length of it?
Yeah, I don't know all the physics behind it. It depends on who you talk to, who you listen to, but they are actually very good, a good tool to have for anybody. They help protect your hearing, and they don't hurt anything. So, actually, there's a bill in the I don't know where it's at right now. It's been kicked around so much in the House and Senate. I'm trying to get suppressors legalized in Iowa, which I don't see why we shouldn't. And they're a good tool for everybody. civilians alike.
I just have a dumb
Yeah.
question, but
There's no
I'm
such
sort of gun illiterate.
That's
So
okay.
what's the difference between a gauge and a caliber?
It's just a type of measurement. Like this right here, it's measured in 223, which is caliber, or the 5.56 millimeter, 12 gauge. It's just a different way of measuring it.
Okay.
That's all it is. Yes, sir.
Are all of these precision sniper rifles bolt action? Is there any reason for it not to be other than bolt?
Oh, they make some very, they used to be the bolt action were the most accurate because of the most stable platform. Everything is one solid piece. You didn't have all the moving parts in there you get from a semi-auto. Military and civilian versions alike, and even law enforcement, they do make extremely accurate semi-autos now. So I would go either way on them now, depending on what you're looking at, what you want to get. Bolt action used to be the way of the most accurate, but anymore semi-autos are just as accurate. So, okay. We'll go over these more later. Okay, go ahead.
The semi-automatic 308, is that what you got? It's like the AR-15, right? What is it?
This right here, this is a 223.
Yeah, but they make a 308.
Oh yeah,
and
they make all
a 32,
they
that's
make
pretty
all
accurate.
different kinds of calibers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's all different kinds of calibers out there you can get. So anywhere from a 22 all the way up to 30-06, I'm sure.
But is that 308 in that version more accurate than that one?
A lot of it depends on the shooter, but they are just as accurate. They make them so tight tolerances anymore that they can be just as accurate, if not more. I mean, this one's a basic hunting gun right off the Walmart shelf. It's pretty much what it is. There's nothing special about it, but they are accurate enough to where we can do a group at 100 yards of 5 in the same hole, pretty much. So get out to 200 yards, opens up a little bit, but they're accurate enough for what we use them for. Yes,
Is
sir.
there no reason to have a silencer on the end of your long distance gun?
There would actually be a great reason to have a silencer on that. It would help cover the person's position, especially if you're at close range. It's a great advantage to have a silencer on this if we had one.
And also, is the Thompson submachine gun history, is it a thing of the past?
Pretty much. I think that shot a 45, didn't it?
It was 45 caliber. And
Yeah. They're fun to shoot them.
You just don't hear about it anymore.
Well, no, not if somebody has them in their collection. So I've shot one, they're fun. Okay, any other questions about these right now? We'll go over some more later if you want. I'm gonna cover the tactical rifle. There's a lot of misconception about this rifle. People are scared of it. It's a big black scary gun. I'm gonna show you it's not really as scary as what you think it is. It's actually a very good weapon for anybody to have. The history of the AR-15 rifle, which is what this was developed from, was designed by Eugene Stoner, who sold the design to Colt in 1959. It was marketed to various military services around the world. I believe they started using it first in Vietnam. They had a little issues with it. They modified it from there. They didn't like it first in Vietnam, and they had a lot of issues, but they were able to figure out what those issues were and correct them. Contrary to the popular belief, AR and the AR-15 designation does not mean assault rifle. Okay, it's just a model number that they happened to come with at the time. I wish they would have came up with something else like M9 or something. They associate the AR with an assault rifle. It was designed for the Armed Light Corporation. There are many different civilian models currently produced. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of different versions of these. Okay.
What about Armalite and Colt? Are they competitors, or how come you both with Colt and Armalite?
I think Armalite picked it up after the fact. Yeah. There's so many companies out there that make these versions of them. I don't even know what you see. Mine's a Rock River Arms, which is out of Illinois, right on the river there. This is one of the common versions that we use at the police department. It's an LAR-15. That's the same thing as this. Mine's just got a little bit different system setup, but it's the same model. I just see it shoots a 5.56 or else shoots a 223 cal. You guys really care about there. Okay, so why do we need rifles? Okay, number one, they are highly accurate as compared to the pistol and the shotgun. the distance, we're able to reach out to longer distance with these. We can stay back further to help de-escalate a situation. The further back we are, the more time we have to come up with a solution to handle situations, okay? To de-escalate it without having to use any type of force, which is our ultimate goal, okay? And these are capable of defeating body armor. Civilians can buy body armor just like we can, okay? These will go right through body armor though, which means they go through our body armor, but a lot of things can. Okay. The accuracy, these are capable of shooting 1 inch of angle accuracy, meaning you can shoot a 1-inch group at 100 yards, 2-inch group at 200 yards, roughly. I mean, there's, it's like 1.0 something inches, but it's roughly an inch group at 100 yards. There's superior accuracy as compared to the pistol or shotgun. The handgun, I'd say the maximum accurate range is 25 yards. I wouldn't want to shoot past 25, 30 yards with them unless I absolutely had to. Shotgun, it says maximum accuracy range is 50 yards. With these shotguns, I'd probably say 25 yards in and under. 50 yards, you're getting kind of sketchy. I mean, you can do it fairly accurate, but sometimes the groups go out to about that much, and if you move just a little bit, you're going to miss your target. The rifle, maximum accurate range at 100 yards for the average shooter. I mean, most people in the department can go out to 100 yards and shoot these and hit a body-sized target. If you get training and know what you're doing and get out there and practice, 200 to 300 yards is not uncommon. We used to shoot these out to 800 yards in the Marines. They're great weapons. So.
Can I ask, when would you use something like that? I mean,
Well,
when
if
has
I'm
it been
going
used?
to a gun where I've got a known armed person, I'm going to use this because I can get back more. Okay, he's got a knife, so if he's clear out there, I can stay back here and I can feel safe and deal with it. Okay, if he's got a gun, I can be even further back if I needed to be. This helps keep us back. If we know they've got a gun or it's a higher risk situation, I'm going to pull this out and carry it with me. Okay. All it is, it helps me be more accurate at farther distance or keep my distance to where we can handle things without getting in a confrontation as quickly, okay? So just remember that. The main thing is this gives us distance away from the situation to where we can still handle it if we need to, okay? And close up if we need to. You're more likely to hit your target with that than you are with this, okay? Or this. Okay, here's a situation of the accuracy. University of Texas Administrative Building. I think this is one of the main situations where they realized they needed rifles, where police officers needed rifles. Charles Whitman, I think he was a jarhead too. He killed 16 and wounded 23 using high-powered rifles from the top of the tower. The problem was law enforcement only had handguns and shotguns. They couldn't reach him at the top of the tower. Okay, so they had to go borrow rifles from civilians in gun shops. Okay, in order to take him out. Okay. Body armor. Handgun and shotgun rounds will not defeat personal body armor. It's going to hurt when you get shot by it. May knock you down, may knock the wind out of you. May not on the bad guy though. They may not feel it. It may just bounce off them like nothing. Okay, these will go right through body armor. Civilians have body armor. Everybody saw it in North Hollywood shootout. Everybody see that video of that? Okay, these guys were walking around full body armor. They were getting pelted left and right with handgun rounds and shotgun rounds, and they were walking around like nothing ever happened to them. Okay, they finally took a rifle to take them out, and I think the second guy shot himself after he was cornered. 11 officers, 7 civilians were injured by 2 heavily armed bank robbers. Both wore military-grade body armor and had AK-47s and M16 rifles. Police officers were armed with only 9mm 38 special pistols, some had 12-gauge shotguns. All were ineffective against the body armor, so they had to once again appropriate AR-15s from a local gun dealer. But you say those are large cities, that's not going to happen here. Well, Columbine, there's a shooting there. These would come in handy there. Population 24,000, 22 people killed, 21 injured. Copley, Ohio, population 14,000. Gunmen went around through a neighborhood killing 8. Okay. Happens all over. Happens in Iowa. 2010, 17-year-old killed 2 convenience store clerks in 2 separate robberies. Keokuk, Iowa, 2011. Deputy Stein is killed by a lone gunman during a call for service. He did have one of these. The other guy got the shot off first and took him out.
Okay.
I'm gonna cover the tactical rifle. There's a lot of misconception about this rifle. People are scared of it. It's a big black and scary gun. I'm gonna show you it's not really as scary as what you think it is. It's actually a very good weapon for anybody to have. The history of the AR-15 rifle, which is what this was developed from, is designed by Eugene Stoner, who sold the design to Colt in 1959. It was marketed to various military services around the world. I believe they started using it first in Vietnam. They had a little issues with it. They modified it from there. They didn't like it first in Vietnam, and they had a lot of issues, but they were able to figure out what those issues were and correct them. Contrary to the popular belief, AR and the AR-15 designation does not mean assault rifle. Okay, it's just a model number that they happened to come with at the time. I wish they would have came up with something else like M9 or something. They associate the AR with an assault rifle. It was designed for the Armed Light Corporation. There are many different civilian models currently produced. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of different versions of these. Okay.
What about Armalite and Colt? Are they competitors, or how come you both with Colt and Armalite?
I think Armalite picked it up after the fact. Yeah. There's so many companies out there that make these versions of them. I don't even know what you see. Mine's a Rock River Arms, which is out of Illinois, right on the river there. This is one of the common versions that we use at the police department. It's an LAR-15. That's the same thing as this. Mine's just got a little bit different system setup, but it's the same model. I just see it shoots a 5.56, or else shoots a 223 cal. You guys really care about there. Okay, so why do we need rifles? Okay, number one, they are highly accurate as compared to the pistol and the shotgun. The distance, we're able to reach out to longer distance with these. We can stay back further to help de-escalate a situation. The further back we are, the more time we have to come up with a solution to handle situations, okay, to de-escalate it without having to use any type of force, which is our ultimate goal, okay. And these are capable of defeating body armor. Civilians can buy body armor just like we can, okay. These will go right through body armor though, which means they go through our body armor, but a lot of things can. Okay. The accuracy, these are capable of shooting 1 inch of angle accuracy, meaning you can shoot a 1 inch group at 100 yards, 2 inch group at 200 yards, roughly. I mean, there's, it's like 1.0 something inches, but it's roughly an inch group at 100 yards. There's superior accuracy as compared to the pistol or shotgun. The handgun, I'd say the maximum accurate range is 25 yards. I wouldn't want to shoot past 25, 30 yards with them unless I absolutely had to. Shotgun, it says maximum accuracy range is 50 yards. With these shotguns, I'd probably say 25 yards in and under. 50 yards, you're getting kind of sketchy. I mean, you can do it fairly accurate, but sometimes the groups go out to about that much, and if you move just a little bit, you're going to miss your target. The rifle, maximum accurate range at 100 yards for the average shooter. I mean, most people in the department can go out to 100 yards and shoot these and hit a body-sized target. If you get training and know what you're doing and get out there and practice, 200 to 300 yards is not uncommon. We used to shoot these out to 800 yards in the Marines. They're great weapons. So.
Can I ask, when would you use something like that? I mean,
Well,
when has
if
it
I'm
been
going
used?
to a gun where I've got a known armed person, I'm going to use this because I can get back more. Okay, he's got a knife, so if he's clear out there, I can stay back here and I can feel safe and deal with it. Okay, if he's got a gun, I can be even further back if I needed to be. This helps keep us back. If we know they've got a gun or it's a higher risk situation, I'm going to pull this out and carry it with me. Okay. All it is, it helps me be more accurate at farther distance or keep my distance to where we can handle things without getting in a confrontation as quickly, okay? So just remember that. The main thing is this gives us distance away from the situation to where we can still handle it if we need to, okay? and close up if we need to. You're more likely to hit your target with that than you are with this, okay, or this. Okay, here's a situation of the accuracy. University of Texas Administrative Building. I think this is one of the main situations where they realized they needed rifles, where police officers needed rifles. Charles Whitman, I think he was a jarhead too. He killed 16 and wounded 23 using high-powered rifles from the top of the tower. The problem was law enforcement only had handguns and shotguns. They couldn't reach him at the top of the tower. Okay, so they had to go borrow rifles at from civilians in gun shops. Okay, in order to take him out. Okay. Body armor. Handgun and shotgun rounds will not defeat personal body armor. It's going to hurt when you get shot by it. You know, may knock you down, may knock the wind out of you. May not on the bad guy though. They may not feel it. It may just bounce off them like nothing. Okay, these will go right through body armor. Civilians have body armor. Everybody saw it in North Hollywood shootout. Everybody see that video of that? Okay, these guys were walking around full body armor. They were getting pelted left and right with handgun rounds and shotgun rounds, and they were walking around like nothing ever happened to them. Okay, they finally took a rifle to take them out, and I think the second guy shot himself after he was cornered. 11 officers, 7 civilians were injured by 2 heavily armed bank robbers. Both wore military-grade body armor and had AK-47s and M16 rifles. Police officers were armed with only 9mm 38 special pistols, some had 12-gauge shotguns. All were ineffective against the body armor, so they had to once again appropriate AR-15s from a local gun dealer. But you say those are large cities, that's not going to happen here. Well, Columbine, there's a shooting there. These would come in handy there. Population 24,000, 22 people killed, 21 injured. Copley, Ohio, population 14,000. Gunmen went around through a neighborhood killing 8. Okay. Happens all over. Happens in Iowa. 2010, 17-year-old killed 2 convenience store clerks in 2 separate robberies. Keokuk, Iowa, 2011. Deputy Stein is killed by a lone gunman during a call for service. He did have one of these. The other guy got the shot off first and took him out. That's one of his, that's his rifle there. So, common myth about the rifle. People believe this is, the rifle round will shoot through many objects, it'll keep on going. This situation is referred to as round over penetration. Meaning if I shoot something, it's gonna go through this wall and keep on going and go for a long ways, okay? That's one thing people are scared about this round, okay? Granted, it will go a long way in open air, but this rifle round is designed for a certain purpose. This .223 or .556 round designed to tumble upon entering a barrier or object, dispersing its energy quickly. What that means is when it enters a body, we'll say, or an object, the round starts tumbling, disperses its energy, meaning it'll stay in the object or not go as far through it. Okay, these are perfectly designed rounds for that. Okay, as compared to a 12-gauge shotgun round, these will go further through a barrier. If I shoot this through that wall, it's probably going to go through several walls. It's just a big chunk of lead with a lot of energy, and it doesn't like to stop because it's just a ball, and it won't tumble, won't lose its energy. Okay, same thing with the handgun round. The 40 cal pistol round will travel approximately the same distance or slightly further through an object or barrier as the .223 or 5.56 round. So even this round will travel further or less through an object than that round, though, than the handgun round. Though. They are a well-designed round. The Baird gelatin test that's how they test these rounds. They shoot in them just to see how far the rounds will go, and they'll shoot through like objects like wood, clothing, just to see how the rounds perform. A 40 cal in Baird gelatin goes approximately 15 inches in. 12-gauge slug goes about 30 inches in. 223, around 10 inches. And that's ideally what you want. Okay?
What does the TAP stand for?
That's hardly tap ammunition. That's the kind of ammunition I actually use in this, is 308 tap ammunition. It's just a brand name. So, and this is the results from their test. I've attended probably 4 or 5 of their gelatin tests, and these are the results. These are actually accurate results. So. So why do we need them? It's better to be prepared for the worst and not need it than to need it and not be prepared, okay? Okay, disguised weapons. This is some of the stuff that we could deal with on the street, okay? Anybody tell me what that is? It's a box of Kleenexes.
Okay.
Disguised weapon. You wouldn't think that's a weapon, would you?
No?
Okay. It's actually a 12-gauge shotgun. That's a tour case. Okay. Here's a real one though. Okay, this is a 12-gauge shotgun disguised as a super soaker. You wouldn't see that, you wouldn't think that's anything but a toy gun, right? Squirt gun. It's actually a fully functioning 12-gauge shotgun. This is stuff they pull off the streets. Here is a cell phone with I think it's a 4-shot, yeah, 4-shot cell phone gun. Shoots 22, looks like those are long rifles, possibly. And here's a lighter. It's a gun, fully functioning gun. That looks like 22 shorts. Capable of killing you though. There's other ones out there I've seen that are canes, that are guns, umbrellas. They make pen guns. I've seen a cigarette gun. It's a single shot cigarette. You pull a string on it, shoots off a round. So I mean, there's all kinds of stuff out there. It's what anybody can come up with in their imagination, they could probably design it and make a fully functioning gun. Okay. Does everybody understand what the term deadly force is and when it can be used?
Say it again, please.
Deadly force. Okay, deadly force is that force which a reasonable person would know to cause death or serious bodily injury. Okay, I'm going to take a poll here. Okay, you guys are the police now. You're going on a call, got a domestic. Neighbor sees a domestic, guy's hitting the girl. Then he says the guy's got a gun. Okay, but she thinks it's a BB gun. So you roll up on the call. The guy comes out, points his gun at you. Justified in shooting him?
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you think you can shoot him. Okay. So on the same call, the caller says the guy has a gun. He comes out, he points this at you. Justified in shooting him? Everybody pretty much in agreement? So pretty much both of them, you guys agree you guys could use lethal force to, no? Which one?
Lethal force you use that.
Lethal force in this one?
Not that one,
Not that one. Okay, why not?
because that's got an orange tip on it.
Okay,
That's an airsoft.
okay, very good though.
What
So,
about
so,
if the subject is holding the weapon up to his head, like.
well, that's a whole different kind of scenario there. That's kind of a, yeah.
So you're saying if it has an orange tip, you,
I didn't say anything yet.
okay.
Okay, I'm just
I
getting
just
opinions.
heard
here.
him and I didn't hear what
Okay.
you said to that.
Okay. This is a fully functioning Glock 22.
Yeah.
That's just tape. People are known to do this, especially big cities. Bad guys will put paint or tape on it to disguise it as a BB gun. This is just an airsoft gun. But
How would
then
you
again,
know?
it's the perception of the person going there. Do you feel threatened? Do you think you're going to die? Do you think you're going to get hurt? That's how they base the justification on, are you able to use lethal force or not? Okay. He said, you can't be judged on hindsight, because then that'd be the big problem. If you're judged on hindsight, you just shot a 18-year-old teenager holding an airsoft gun. Why did you shoot a guy holding an airsoft gun? He's not going to hurt you. Okay. You can't look at it as hindsight. You got to look as how did you feel? What was going through your mind at the time? The totality of the circumstances. There's a lot of guns out there that look like toys. That one there is a fully functioning AK-47 with Hello Kitty on it. That is a AR version, M16. Nice and pink. These are all fully functioning guns. Okay, you get them in any color you want. Okay, does that look like a toy gun? That actually is a toy gun. Pretty realistic though.
Oh, yeah.
That is an M4 airsoft. That looks pretty realistic. Someone came and pointed that at me, I'd be pretty scared. That's an airsoft AK-47, it's just like the real thing. Airsoft M16. Airsoft shotgun. Which one's real, which one's fake? You guys got a lot of time to think about it. Imagine somebody coming around the corner just pointing that at you real quick. You have time to decide? Okay. Anybody want to take a guess? Real or fake?
That one fake.
This one's fake? Real or fake?
Real.
Okay. This one's fake, this one's real.
I wasn't gonna fall for it.
Fool me once.
But you kind of see the point.
Yeah.
You guys have got a lot of time to sit there and kind of look at it. Imagine you're going on a call where it's dark and alley or something like that, and all of a sudden you see something that looks like that. You don't have that amount of time to think about, is it real, is it fake?
Do police departments use Magnum rounds? Is that a
No.
bad Magnum?
That was like 44 mags, 357. That was kind of the old school. No. Okay. Oop. Real or fake?
Fake.
This one's fake? Real or fake?
Real.
Real or fake?
Real.
Real? This one's fake.
Wow.
This
Well,
sound.
that's just the,
Airsoft.
yeah. That's some other cheaper on there. But yeah. They're pretty realistic. You can put all the attachments on you want. Make it look real.
So how do you train?
Well, we train to mostly use our heads. Now, I don't want anybody to get worried that we're running around seeing a little 5-year-old running around with a squirt gun and, you know, we're pulling our guns out on them. That's not the way this works. Okay, we train to use our heads to think about the situation, what's going on, what's happening, okay? And then again, that's why this helps us with distance. We can stay back and kind of assess the situation too and try to figure out what's going on. You know, we get calls all the time of there's a kid running around with a gun. We kind of, you know, we find the person, we'll sit back and just kind of see what their demeanor is and see what's going on, you know, and then assess it from there and deal with it, so.
Do you need to carry, like, if you have like an airsoft pistol, do you need like a weapon
No,
thing?
no. It's not a good idea to go walking around town with an airsoft
No.
pistol. It's not necessarily illegal, as long as you're not shooting it. But it could be, you know, if people get scared and they see that, it, you know, could be fall under disorderly conduct type of thing, but, you know, it's one of those things, you just have to use your common sense when you're dealing with it. Okay. I have these to kind of point out the stuff that we have to deal with and the things that we have to see and a different perspective. I mean, a lot of people see the news, they see, oh, this teenager, which is like some 18-year-old kid, was shot by the police carrying a BB gun. Well, if you hesitate, you could die. If you know, you don't, you could be in the wrong. What do you do?
But you said carrying a BB gun or whatever, but isn't there just some provocation to this before? I mean, it's just not walking along and they shoot
Well,
it.
there's
But I
hundreds,
mean,
hundreds and hundreds of
evidently you had to
situations out
lift it
there,
up or
you know.
something like that.
That's why we deal with it, the totality of circumstances. We find out what's going on, what the caller sees, what they're doing, you know, generally we just take in all the information and assess it as we're going to the call and deal with it when we get there too and see how we need to handle it.
How much?
The cardinal rules for firearms: treat all weapons if they're loaded. That is always accurate. If I watch Todd's have a lot, he's got more experience than I do with firearms. If I watched him handle a gun, I watch him unload it, and then he hand it to me. The first thing that I would do is I would take a look myself and make sure it's unloaded. You cannot overcheck this. You can't. I mean, when I unload my gun, especially for like maintenance and stuff, one of the features of the Glock forces you to pull the trigger. There's been a lot of accidental discharges because you have to pull the trigger before you can disassemble it to clean it. There's been a lot of those things happen because people don't check. When I do it, I check no less than like 5 times. I'll pull the magazine out, get rid of the round in the chamber, I'll rack it a couple times, open it up, look, actually feel down in there, and I do this every single time. And if you watch anybody up on the police department, that's the same stuff they're doing because you can never do that too many times. Everything you have, every time you have a gun, pretend as if it's loaded, okay? Keep your finger off the trigger. I talked to you about this during building searches. Unless you intend to fire that weapon, your finger shouldn't be on the trigger. And I'm talking right up to the second where you think you're gonna actually pull the trigger. Otherwise, I mean, there's lots of situations where we'll have our gun out, even our gun out, point at somebody, still have fingers off the trigger up until you make that decision that you're gonna use the weapon. One of the things I was telling you about before is it gives you it's really quick movement, but it gives you that split second to actually analyze what's going on. Your mind's a very powerful tool. It gives you that split second to actually analyze what's going on. Can I or can't I use this force? And that's that standoff distance when we're trying to make these decisions. Again, also avoids like a startle reflex, pulling the trigger on accident on a startle reflex. Never point your weapon at anything unless you're justified. Talk about policies, talk about state laws, federal laws. We have all sorts of things that give us justification whether we can or we cannot point our guns at things. So again, we don't point it at it unless we plan to use it or unless we feel like there's a justification to use it. And then also be sure of your target. That's the other disadvantage that we have in law enforcement. We are responsible for every single round we shoot. So I told you a lot of officers miss. I mean, our percentages during gunfights are pretty low. You are still accountable for every one of those rounds. So if it goes beyond that person and hits somebody, you're responsible for that. So it holds you to a higher standard. Bad guys can reach around the corner and hold their gun out and start shooting. We can't do that. We have to know what our target is. We have to see our target, be able to articulate what that target was, and justify each one of those rounds that we fire. Kind of talked about this, never offer a weapon or receive a weapon from anyone unless the action is open. So when we talk about the action, this slide lock back, that's what your action is. So with the action open, that's what the gun's gonna look like with a handgun, okay? Slide lock back, no magazine in the well. Then you can actually look down here, feel, you can see there's no round in there. It's good. With the shotgun, this is a closed action, this is an open action. So you can actually see the bolt groups all the way out of the way. You can actually see down there. You can see down in the magazine tube, make sure there's no extra rounds in there. So it's not only the chamber you have to make sure is empty, like in a shotgun, because if there's one in the magazine tube, as soon as you close it, now another one gets fed in. So you got to check both those things. With the rifle, there's actually a release slide, bolt release here. So you can push that, and that actually slides that. This is your bolt, slides that forward. With it open, you pull this back, and then you can actually lock it down. So again, that's with that open. And then with the MP5, it's actually on the side here. So this is like a slap release there, and then when you pull it back, you actually rock it forward or to the top, and it actually locks back too. Same thing, you can see down in the chamber and make sure that everything's open there. We'll go over that again before you handle them. We'll kind of explain it to you down in the range. Making a weapon safe, remove the magazine. This is the one that gets a lot of people in trouble, is that you have to, we call it like racking out a round. So you have to, the one in the chamber, you lock the slide back and that'll eject that round that was in the chamber. But if you, again, like I talked about before, if the magazine's full, all it's gonna do is put another one back in. That's got guys in trouble before because you rack it out and then all of a sudden you drop the magazine second. Now you got one round in the chamber that's unaccounted for that you forgot about. And then when you go to squeeze your trigger, if you don't double check it, triple check it, you get a round that go off. Work the slide several times, like I said. So in a normal procedure, weapons like this, it's loaded, hit the magazine release, which is a button right over here, hit the magazine release, magazine out. You're gonna set that down, you're gonna rack the slide back, and a lot of times I'll try to lock it open so I prevent like the round getting caught in there and hitting something. So I'll try to lock it open, let the round fall. We don't try to, John Wayne it and try to round up and try to catch it. We don't recommend doing that. So let the round fall, and then we'll actually rack it several times to make sure that extractor is able to grab that round and get it out of there. Then once it's locked to the rear, we'll actually look down in here, make sure that it's clear, actually put your finger in there, into the chamber, make sure that there's no round in there. The models that we carry are the 22, which is the full, what we call the full size. There actually are bigger sizes of the 40 caliber, but the 22 is a full size, 23 is just a little bit smaller. It fits somebody better with a little bit smaller hand. It's just a grip size mostly. It does have a little bit less capacity, a little bit less round counts. What's the difference? 15?
Yeah, 15 and 13.
13. So the 22 will hold 15 rounds in the magazine plus one in the chamber. and 23, which is a little smaller, holds 13 mag in the magazine in one of the chambers, so 14 total. The ammunition, this is outdated a little bit, so I'm going to skip some of this. This is actually a pretty good illustration. This is the Glock, the functions of a Glock. You can kind of see what all the internal things do. So as the trigger's being pressed, you're seeing that trigger come to the back, that trigger guard falls back. There's a few different built-in safeties on this. Okay. Todd, you can correct me here when I say something stupid, because I'm sure I'm about ready to. There's three built-in safeties on the Glock. There's no external safety. There's no button that you push that puts the weapon on safe, but there are safety features built in. The three safeties built into the Glock, you got the trigger safety, and what it is, this tiny little notch, and when this comes back out, you can see this tiny little notch out front here. That's right in the center of the trigger. You have to actually depress that first to allow the trigger to come back. And what it does is it moves a little plastic piece back in here. And if you don't, that plastic piece right back there will actually catch on the frame and not allow the weapon to pull back unless you press that trigger, that middle of that trigger. So what that prevents is catching the trigger like on the edge of something and going off. You have to have a full press on that trigger to get the trigger to go back. The second one here, I believe it's called a drop safety. Is that correct? They call this a drop safety. This, the trigger bar slides back here and basically has to get to a certain point before it actually drops down, allowing that firing pin to be released. So what it's doing is it's catching that firing pin, pressing it back until it drops down, allows the firing pin to go forward and strike the actual primer. So again, a second feature that until the trigger goes all the way to the back, that will not drop down, allowing that firing pin to go forward. And then your third safety feature is a firing pin safety. Is that what?
Firing pin locking pin.
Yeah, so a firing pin locking in right here, this feature. The way this is set up is it will not allow the firing pin past this little piece right here up until it gets to the right point. So it's holding that firing pin back until it moves up and then allows that firing pin to go through. So a few safety features built into it, but no actual external safety on it.
What about guns jamming?
Guns jamming, that's a good question. That's we do train for that. There's some very standard malfunctions that you would see. I'm going to say that with the increase in technology and again fixing some issues they've had, it's not nearly the issue it used to be. I know when back in the day, I remember my dad carried a Smith & Wesson. What was that heavy?
5907.
Yeah, something like that. It was.
Piece of junk.
Yeah, they were terrible, man. I remember shooting one of those once, and every other round was
Yeah.
jamming. Just a terrible design on that gun. They've made some increases, so you don't see it as much, but you can have some things. For example, you could have like a failure to feed where it didn't feed the round in, fail to eject where it doesn't eject the extra casing out, fail to extract where it doesn't extract it actually out of the chamber. There's some different things. What they've done is developed a way to clear that malfunction. We train everybody that, so it doesn't matter what the malfunction is. For the most part, we do one process. Which is we'll tap the bottom of the gun to make sure the magazine's seated well, because that can cause issues. And then we'll rack the weapon back, and a lot of times that'll fix 90% of your malfunctions. Just by tapping the weapon, racking it out, and getting rid of that extra round, and then you're back. There are a few variations, but we do train that, and we'll get them sometimes. I've had very, very few malfunctions, and if I have a malfunction, it's because most of mine have been like an actual spring broke on the gun or something like that. It wasn't just like a weapon malfunction necessarily. So some of the fundamentals we'll talk about. Your grips are important. We can kind of go over that with you when we get out there. But you want a good solid grip on the weapon. You gotta firm, but you're not trying to kill the thing. Okay, so you want to just hold a good firm handshake with your dominant hand. So for me, that's my right hand. Good firm handshake. And then the idea is, what I like to do is, you want to try to get as much of your hand cover in the grip as you can. So my secondary hand is going to, the way that my thumb kind of lines up here, I'm able to cover the remainder of that grip with my offhand. And then you're overlacing these fingers onto this, okay? So you get some people that want to like hold down here and do this kind of stuff. You want a good firm grip on the weapon. And again, we'll kind of go over that once we get out there next week. different people have to do different things based on their hand size and whatever else, but that's the way that I like to grip it.
And you always use both hands and holding and pointing the weapon.
Our qualification requires us to be able to shoot one single-handedly, and we try to train single-handedly some too. Ideally, if you can get a two-hand grip, that's what you want. You're more accurate. It's a better way. But keep in mind, you can have an injury, whether it be any kind of injury, whether you get shot or whether something else happens. You have to be able to operate with one hand. It doesn't matter which hand. A big thing in the academy, they'll train that you have to be able to. So if I'm a right-handed shooter, I have to be able to draw my weapon with my left hand, get it around. I have to be able to fire rounds, and then I have to be able to do a reload with never touching it with my right hand. So we train on different ways that you can do that. So yeah, we train all sorts, but ideally, it's just like if you have an option to have a shoulder fire weapon, you have that. If you have an option to use two hands on your pistol, you use that. Just increase accuracy. Determining your dominant eye. There's a thing on here, and I don't know how this works. The one that he's got on here. But what I do, if you don't know what your dominant eye is, it'll make a difference on when you shoot. So what I do is, if you guys want to do this right now, you can do it. If you take your hands and you make a diamond shape and you pick an object and you keep both eyes open and you look at that object and then close one of your eyes and then close the other eye. So for me, I'm right eye dominant. So when I close my left eye, keeping my right eye open, that picture still stays in frame. If I close my right eye, keeping my left eye open, all of a sudden I can see my hand. I can't see that shape. So that'll give you an idea on it. Most of the population is right-handed, and most of them are going to be right eye dominant. There are some exceptions to that, and that can really become a pain, especially shooting a long gun. Have you dealt with that at all?
Like left-handed, right eye dominant?
Yeah, so if you're right-handed,
Left eye dominant.
Left-handed, right-handed.
yeah, so if you're the opposite, trying to shoot a rifle becomes difficult because you try to get that other eye down there. For the handgun, it wouldn't make much difference for me personally, because when I shoot more of an isosceles, like a straight on. So I'll shoot straight out in front of me, so it doesn't make any difference. I can use either eye, but when it starts becoming an issue depending on what you're doing. So if you're having that issue, we might have to kind of work with you a little bit once we get down there, kind of explain to you later once we get down there. But it's important that you know which eye is your dominant eye. Proper sight alignment, I think there's a slide here, proper sight alignment and sight picture. There's a slide here that shows you what this is, but your sight alignment, you've got your front sight up here, okay, and then you've got your rear sight back here. The front sight is one solid piece, the rear sight has a groove cut out, like a horseshoe groove cut out. So when you line your sights up, you want the top of this front sight rail to be even with the top of this back sight rail, okay? You want the same amount of space between, so you want it perfectly centered in between there. And then you focus your attention on the front. So your front sight will actually be very clear, where your back sight will be just a little bit blurry, and the target will be just a little bit blurry. And I'll show you an example. There's actually some good pictures up here that illustrate what it looks like. Trigger control, that's a big one that we'll talk about. This is a big one that we fight for new officers, people with less experience shooting, that trigger control. This is the most important thing about being a good shooter as opposed to a poor shooter, is trigger control, and it's this simple. This motion right here makes you a good shooter or a bad shooter. And I'm telling you, it's so hard to explain to people. It's very, very fundamental, but you just have to be a smooth, straight back trigger press. What you'll get is people that they know the gun's gonna kick a little bit. Once you shoot it, it doesn't do much, but it's hard to fight that fear of that kick. So what you do is you'll anticipate that round going off, and you'll jerk that trigger. So what it does is jerks the gun down a little bit, and that minute little movement pulls your round all the way off. So it's all about nice, slow, steady trigger press while keeping the round right there, as opposed to trying to get it off quick and making the gun jerk down. So trigger control is a big one. And then breathing. Breathing impacts me a lot more with a long gun. When I shoot like a rifle, especially like trying to shoot really small group, then you really need to what I like to do is breathe in, breathe out, and you're trying to get all that air out of your lungs, and then you've got like a 4 to 6 second window in there that you're still stable, and then you can squeeze that round off, so you're not getting any up and down movement. So that's where you're getting. With the pistol, I don't really notice it as much, but it can make an issue. You kind of want to shoot at your natural pause, so there's a natural pause at the bottom of my breath, fire the round. That's kind of what you do. Like I said, I don't pay any attention when I shoot a handgun because it's not an issue for me. There's a picture of your grip, kind of like I showed you before. Again, important, finger down that side, down the frame of the gun, don't put it on the trigger. A couple different, stances that we do. The Academy teaches the modified weaver. When they talk about the weaver, it's like a side stance where you shoot like this, a side stance. They teach a modified weaver. So basically, if my target's down there, you probably can't see my feet, but I'm offset just a little bit. So I'm not full on sideways. I'm offset just a little bit, and then I'm forward. So my weak side or my support side is going to be forward. My strong side is going to be to the rear, and then the weapon's straight forward. That's how the Academy mainly teaches. I shoot isosceles, which is straight on, squared up with the target. I feel like I'm more stable this way. I'm more accurate, and it allows my body armor to use the strong part of my body armor as opposed to exposing my weak side. So I prefer isosceles. I shoot straight forward like this. So for me, when I shoot right-handed or left-handed, it doesn't make any difference to me. My weapon's here. If I go left-handed, my weapon's right here. It's just which finger I'm pulling the trigger with. That's all it is. So I prefer that way, but if you're more comfortable, a lot of people are more comfortable in like a modified weaver, like a 45-degree angle. The benefit of us teaching that, the modified weaver, is we try to use some consistency in training so that I'm not training you to shoot a gun like this, and then the defensive tactics people are teaching you to stand like this, and then so we try to keep this consistency. So when we talk to somebody, if you ever see us talking to somebody, sometimes you look at us funny, but when I talk to you, if I'm just on the streets, I'm probably going to talk to you just like this. And it's nothing, sometimes it can be like offensive to people, or, it's the way, or, people start getting close to us, and I'm going to keep a step back. I keep my distance, and I keep this stance. We call it an interview stance, because when I'm talking to them, that's how it's going to be. I can hold my notepad right here. I'm going to have my pen in my hand, but I keep that hand free, but I can actually talk to you now. I'm in this stance. So everything I do is out of this stance. My defensive tactics out of this stance, my firearms out of this stance. That's the reason, some consistency in the training. That's the reason I teach that across the board. If you guys can make sense of this, I don't know, maybe this works for you. I tried. It's similar to what we're doing, but a little different instructions. So anyway, I tried doing that this morning, it didn't work for me. This is a perfect picture of your side alignment, okay? As you can see, here, this is your front sight. The front sight post is dead even here with this back sight post. You're gonna have one straight line all the way across this top. I can't move the mouse straight apparently, but straight across the top, this is all gonna be even. You're gonna have a little bit of air on both sides of the actual sight, so you try to keep that even. You don't want a tiny little gap here and a big gap over there, because if you get that, you're gonna shoot to the right. Same thing, you want it even across there, even on both sides. And then the biggest thing is keep your focus on that front sight, and that's a hard one for people too. That front sight should be perfectly clear when you're looking. The back sights will be blurry. This is a very, very good illustration on what the actual sight picture should look like when you're actually shooting. Sight picture, this occurs when the sight alignment is superimposed on the given target. So you're going to have, this is your overall sight picture. You got your sights aligned, you got your target in the background. And again, your front sight should be perfectly clear. Your back sights will be a little bit blurry, and the target will be a little bit blurry. And this is at the time you're actually squeezing the actual trigger. So, some people will question, well, you don't want your target to be blurry, you want to know what you're shooting at. That's beyond that point. You know what you're shooting at, you've made that decision, now you're shooting. Focus on that front sight, everything else is blurry, and that's how you're going to get your accuracy with the weapon. Where your front sight goes is where the round's going to go. Trigger control, I talked to you about trigger control, why it's important.
Wait, Bob. Push up. Wait, Bob.
pretty sure there were some curse words in there somewhere. That is the opposite of trigger control, and that's also shoot like an elephant gun.
Move through the air.
What about recoil?
The shotguns kick just a little bit more than that. I'm teasing. These, there's not hardly any recoil. Again, you'll feel it with the handgun, you'll feel the slide move, but there's not much recoil. With the rifle, especially, there's just not much. I mean, it's very, very little recoil. So if you look at this and you think, oh, it's a big weapon, there's not a lot of recoil. The 12 gauge does have some recoil, it has some kick. Nothing unmanageable as long as you hold it tight. The big thing, you'll get people where they'll keep it loose against there, and then it's really ramming into your shoulder. So what you want to do is just hold it tight against there, and a good, firm, aggressive stance, and it's not that bad. It's nothing like that, I promise you.
So let me explain something to you guys. If somebody ever comes around you talking to you about drugs, run away from them. You understand what I'm saying? Run away from them. And see, I got these joints and I want to talk to you guys about. I have a whole lot more to tell you, but I don't have a whole lot of time. I got these guns. I have a gun on my side right here. Just this week, at the beginning of the week, a young boy, not even 16 years old, was killed because he was playing with a gun. And see, this is an unloaded gun. Right here, pick up. This is a Glock 40. 50 Cent, Too Short, all of them talk about Glock 40. Okay, I'm the only one in this room professional enough that I know of to carry this Glock 40. I'm the only one. No, is everybody all right? All right. False. Yeah. Listen up, guys.
He's shot himself in the leg right now. He's shot.
Listen up. And I made a mistake. So listen to me. Guys, listen to me. Yes, listen to me. See that how the accident happened? It can happen to you, and you can be blown away. Okay? So guys, never play with guns. See how accidents happen? They happen. Okay, now I'll probably never be able to show guns again. But Brian, so bring that other gun out, Brian. Yeah, Bob, see that right there. See that right there. Brian. I think he called it right there. Bring that other gun out. Hey, see this gun right here, guys? Listen. See this gun?
He's got him scared now. We saw what you did with the first one. So. That's why we check, double check. Accidents can happen, and we just do not allow that. Safety first, and like I said, even the SWAT guys that we're trained every single month, lots of firearms training. We do it by the books. We do it properly each and every time, so we avoid stuff like that.
Hello, I'm Officer Britt Stamp. Been with the police department for just a little over 25 years. Been a driving instructor for about 11. This is
Dave Danielson. I'm not as old as him. Been here about 9 years, driving instructor for a little over 4.
So, we're going to be talking about driving tonight. All right. We got to take baby steps when we start to drive. So, we've got to learn how to control our vehicle. And it's the continuous combination of driver skill, the vehicle dynamics, and the environment in which the vehicle and the driver operate to arrive at a destination safely. So how do we control the vehicle? By steering, braking, and acceleration. Those are the 3 main components of driving a car. You transfer the weight where you want it, and where you need it, when you need it. They're just, the accelerator, the steering wheel, and the brake aren't just tools to stop, start, or turn a vehicle. when we start talking about the contact patch is where the rubber meets the road, okay? You have 4 tires on your car. Each tire, on a typical radial tire, the contact patch is about the palm of your size, or about the size of the palm of your hand. So if you think about it, that's not a very big footprint for a 2,000-pound car. Okay, that's all what's keeping that car on the road. By putting more weight over one particular tire or tires, you increase the size of the contact patch in one area, but you decrease it in another. Okay, so you got to be careful about your inputs in your steering, braking, and accelerating. When a vehicle changes speed and or direction, it is a fact that weight is moved around the car, depending on the inputs of the driver, the brake, the accelerator, and the steering, or any combination. The total weight of the vehicle does not change, it's just the weight distribution that changes. The key to driving is controlling the balance of the vehicle. So you want to keep your vehicle in balance. So if I use my Gatorade here, okay, water is going to seek liquid's going to seek its own level, okay? If this is a car, the car is happy sitting here. So if you accelerate, it's going to go like this. So your weight transfers back. If you hit the brake, weight transfers forward. You really can't do it with liquid side to side, but same principle. Ideally, you want to have the weight equally distributed over all 4 tires, but when you're turning, accelerating, and braking, that necessarily isn't going to be the case. We must control weight transfer to our advantage. For example, how many people have went to go turn a corner on an icy road and you still continue in a straight line? Everybody's done it, okay? One way to help you is, if you've got the wheel cranked all the way over, bring it back to where you think you're gonna be normally turning on a dry road. Jam the brake real quick, violently transfer some of that weight to the front tires, hoping that it'll give you a little bit of grip, and maybe keep you out of the ditch. Okay, the challenge of the driver is to strive not to have any drastic input, but to maintain as much balance as possible. Transferring the weight is the enemy, okay? If you do it and you know that you're gonna do it, it's not the enemy. But if something comes along and transfers the weight for you, like you get rear-ended, you're not expecting that. So the weight transfer is the enemy, and keep your inputs smooth. Driving techniques for control or car control, the use of your eyes. How many times haven't we seen a car out in the middle of nowhere wrapped around a tree or a telephone pole? Nothing else around it. Have we seen that? You know why that happened? I don't want to hit that tree! I don't want to hit that tree! They're looking at the tree. Okay, so if your car's out of control, look to where you want to go. Scan real quick for hazards, and steer into a farmer's drive or some place of safe refuge. Obviously, steering, and brake, and the accelerator. All right, the rules of 10. On a scale of 1 to 10, it's your inputs. So if you're accelerating hard at, say, an 8, you don't want to be turning at a 5. And why would I say that?
Yeah, over 10.
Right, you're over 10, but you're accelerating at an 8. What's happening up here to your front steer tires?
No traction.
Okay. And if you start turning, that's transferring weight around, and if it's a rear-wheel drive car, you might start slipping around. And you don't want your back end passing your front end. Okay, so any combination of two of these three cannot exceed 10. We are going to skip that. All right. Do you want to do emergency mode? Sure.
Emergency mode is a response to a situation that is life-threatening or that involves extreme property loss, justifies the legal use of emergency warning device.
You just hit that.
The act or instance of chasing or pursuing a fleeing vehicle in an attempt to overtake and apprehend a driver.
That's the first.
Speed, the patrol vehicle, other motorists, environmental conditions, traffic, officers' mental and emotional conditions, all play a factor in emergency driving. We talk about when we go, we don't really have much of a chase policy anymore. I mean, you guys watch TV and see the bad things that happen with that, but we want to be going 70 to a call at 3 o'clock by Franklin. You know, chasing a car, 5 o'clock at night, Antonin Center. That's a bad intersection. Nowadays, you know, cell phones, you know, people distracted while they're driving, making cars more soundproof nowadays is gonna be scary. Again, as it is now, people don't see your lights, they don't hear your siren. A lot of it's because they're preoccupied. There's nothing more dangerous than being distracted while you're driving. You know, I tell my wife and my friends that I don't drive my squad car any different than I drive my personal vehicle. You know, as soon as that light turns green, I don't gun it and take off. I wait a second and I look both ways because, like I said, how many times have you seen somebody run that red light and there you are because they were distracted. Again, officer mental and emotional conditions. I work nights. You know, come 6 o'clock, nothing's happened all night, and then you get that holy crap call, and you know where's your head at? You gotta be ready. So all those play a factor when you're driving in that emergency mode. You know, going to that robbery, shots fired, whatever it is. All those are very important to us when we're driving. And I don't know if anybody's, I mean, a lot of you guys have been at the ride, done a ride along, so you see what's inside our car. We have tons of distractions in there, from talking on the radio to looking at the call screen to see what's going on. And you know, my wife gets mad at me, and I'll admit, you know, I look at my phone while I'm driving, and she gets mad at me, and you know, I tell her I'm a professional. What I do, I mean, look at all the things I got distracting me in the car. So I joke about it, but
Well, when we're looking at our call screen, we're talking on the radio, we're trying to drive. You know, trying to move your mouse cursor on the computer, driving with one hand, reaching over, trying to pick up the radio to talk on it. You know, I mean, there's a lot of distractions in our car.
looking to see if that guy on the bicycle's wanted. I mean, all those things really play a role in being a distracted driver. But I don't know the statistics for an officer just getting in a crash while on routine patrol. It's pretty rare here. It seems like people hit us more than we hit them. And that goes back to your hands are glued to your eyes. I mean, how many times have you seen somebody hit the rear end of a squad car when we've got somebody pulled over on the side of the road? Because they're fascinated by the lights and they're looking, and the car just glides over that way. So those are all things to consider. I probably just talked about 5 slides right there. The use of lights and sirens are mandatory in a pursuit. Again, when we did get into pursuits, there's a code it's called eluding. When somebody goes over a certain mile an hour over the speed, in order for us to charge eluding, we have to have our lights and sirens on.
In a marked vehicle.
So if our lights are on and our sirens aren't on, we can't charge that, you know, if they're going over a certain speed. The siren has limitations, 90 mile an hour, can't hear it. That's us going 90 mile an hour, not you guys. And it might be even a little sooner than that.
Yeah.
You outrun your siren at 90 mile an hour.
And I've actually experienced this. Here a couple of years ago, county was having a chase down south of Gilman, and I heard on the radio that they were coming north. So I'm going to go down south end of town, make sure that they don't get into town here, and I'll try to stop stick them before they get here. So I'm sitting on the 18th Avenue bypass, or the overpass, waiting to see if they're going to be coming into town and where I need to get to. Well, I could see the sheriff's deputies who were leaving the jail coming down Highway 30. I didn't hear their siren until they already passed me. It's the Doppler effect. That you're just outrunning. You're going faster than what the sound waves of that siren are.
Like I said, nowadays there's probably less with these newer cars and how soundproof they are. Communications is vital for a safe emergency response. I don't know, you guys live in town, you know what happened up here at 3rd Ave and State. 2 squad cars colliding. We need to talk on the radio and even be aware of where that other responding car is coming from. You don't know, you're going to that same place and there's 5 ways to get there. So communicating, letting them know where you're coming from. I'm coming from the north, I'm coming down Center Street. Making sure that we slow down. When we have our lights on, we want to make sure we slow down at the stop sign or the stoplight. Slowing down enough to where if we have to stop, we can. Clearing that intersection, looking both ways before we take off again. And again, you see it where, people don't pay attention. They don't see us coming. Maybe it's a blind intersection. Maybe it's thinking about a bad day at work or whatever it is, and they don't pay attention. They got the green light, we got the red light, but we got our lights and siren on, and holy smokes, there they are. So communicating with one another, officer-wise, knowing where we're coming from, and then again, traffic, the color of the light, the spot in town where you're at, all those that, got to think about on top of how you're going to handle that call when you get there. So we got something always going on in our brain, like I said, which makes it easy for us to be distracted drivers too. We focus so much on how we're gonna handle that call or how we're gonna come in, whatever the call is and how we're gonna handle it, but, I don't know if there's a slide, but you get tunnel vision. Everybody gets it. I've been on a few hot calls, and when I got done, I'm not quite sure how I got there. It's that tunnel vision. You see nothing but the little dots in the road, and you're not looking side to side, and you just get there, and afterwards you think about it, and it's like, holy crap, how to get there.
We'll, when we got wherever we're gonna do our driver training next week, I'll bring some practice stop sticks and let you throw them. They're of the same weight as the actual ones, but they're just foam and we can run over them and not puncture any tires. They're training stop sticks. But stop sticks are used to slowly flatten tires. And they're thrown into the roadway from a safe location. I'm sure during firearms they were talking about, taking cover and stuff. This is where you really want to take cover also, because if you're getting to the point where you're going to be using stop sticks, that guy's not stopping, or gal's not stopping. Okay?
Probably a gal.
And so who knows why they're running, or what they're capable of doing, or what their mindset is. And so the number one rule when you're doing stop sticks is never, ever, ever, ever enter into the roadway. Okay, how they're constructed is it's in a triangle, and they have the stops or the roller pins with what they call quills, kind of like the tip on an arrow, on a bow and arrow. Well, that sits on top of that roller pin, and they're on each side. So no matter how that stop stick is laid down, they've got them crisscrossed in there like this. So no matter how it falls, if you run over it, it's going to puncture your tire. Well, it's in a hardened plastic. The plastic breaks, your tire runs over these quills and sticks that roller pin up inside of your tire, and it's kind of like a straw, and it just slowly lets the air out of that tire. I don't know, you probably changed a few tires. Those quills are sharp, aren't they? You don't want to handle them very rough. So that's, whoever came up with that idea, I wish I did. I really do, because they're about 100 and, I want to say, I think they're right around $100 a stick.
Those there were pretty old school, weren't they? Those look like, those were old.
Oh, those were the accordion. Yeah. It's more of a, I don't know exactly what they do call them, but
How wide
road
are
spikes.
what's that?
How wide are
The sticks?
Just covering one lane?
The sticks are 3 feet long, but we stick 3 of them into one sleeve to make 9 feet. And there's you collapse them upon themselves, kind of like a tent pole, where if you've ever been camping, folding up the tent poles. You kind of collapse them together, and they have a handle on the sleeve, and you've got a kind of like a little fishing reel type thing in the other hand, and you toss them on the other side of the road. Well, you don't want to toss them in the road because you don't want to mistakenly flatten somebody else's tire. You want to get the target vehicle. Once it's on the other side of the road, you lock your little fishing reel in place. When your target vehicle comes, you run backwards with it, pulling them into the road, and hopefully your timing and the car meet. And because when we train, we did this, 3 years ago out of the airport. They gave us permission to have the taxiway for the short runway, the taxiway for the big runway, and then part of the main taxiway coming up to the terminal. So we kind of had like a tri-oval, and it was about a mile long. Well, we set up in one of the corners where they really had to slow down just for our safety because we didn't want any mishaps. And we actually tried. We had a rabbit car and we had a chase car. And we did it like we would do it out on the street, saying, all right, we've got stop sticks deployed at, and we were just making up street names. You know, because we didn't know the name of the runway or anything. So we've got stop sticks deployed here. So that tells the pursuit car, all right, hey, I know that there's stop sticks up there. If I run over them, I'm done. Okay, I'm out of the game. Back off. Okay. The suspect vehicle hits them. We get on the radio. Hey, we got 1 tire, 2 tires, or we got all 4 tires. All right. Now, that officer that deployed the sticks gets them out of the road, gets on the radio and says, road's clear. That gives the pursuing officer, okay, now I can get back in it. Okay? Because if we hit them, we're done.
And it's kind of an art because these bad guys will do everything they can to avoid them. They see him in the road. They'll slow down, go in the ditch, or going to oncoming traffic, whatever it may be, to not hit these. And I don't know the percentage of how successful they are. I mean, when they get ran over, they're successful, but to actually hit them and get them tossed out there, it's not easy.
Okay, another pursuit intervention technique is the pit maneuver. In Marshalltown, we're not allowed to do this. Both Dave and I are certified to do this. And what the pit maneuver is that it causes the vehicle that you're chasing to lose control. So you come up alongside of them with your front bumper against the back wheels, or not, the back quarter of their car, and you just kind of rub them a little bit, make sure that you're making contact. Crank the steering wheel into them, hit the gas, and spin them out. Okay. What you got to do is just tap it a little bit, and it's down. You bring it around to the point of no return, and they're out of it. Now let's talk about some legal aspects. There's regulations governing vehicle operation. We have the traffic laws, local ordinances, and department policy. Our local ordinances and department policy can be more restrictive than state law, but cannot be less restrictive. Okay, so what do you think I mean by that? Or what do you think that means?
It means you can be more strict than the state.
Right. Our department policy can be more strict than what state law will allow us to do. For example, like in pursuits, state law says, hey, if there's a violator, you can pretty much pursue them. Our department policy, on the other hand, says, unless it's a fleeing felon, you better think twice about it. Okay, so but we can't be less restrictive than state law. So, you know, we just can't, what would be a good example for that? Anyway, I mean, do you folks kind of get the idea on that? All right, so we're subject to all traffic regulations unless there's a specific exemption. So one of those, or the specific exemption would be if we're in emergency mode. But even if we're in emergency mode, we can still be held criminally or civilly liable for our actions, even though that we're justified in doing what we're doing. Okay?
I've seen you guys do U-turns.
I'm glad that's all you've said.
Okay. So what is an emergency? Kind of a loose definition is any situation in which there is a high probability of death or serious injury to an individual or significant property loss, and the action of the emergency response vehicle driver may reduce the seriousness of that situation if we get there. Okay? So that's kind of a loose definition of what is an emergency. So knowing that, when can I operate in emergency mode? Well, obviously responding to an emergency call. Okay? So that would be like a call of somebody coming in saying that my baby's choking, my husband's having a heart attack, somebody fell off the roof and is bleeding from the head, okay? A bank robbery, domestic disturbance where there's weapons involved, or they're physically fighting, okay? Anything that if we get there and we can stop it quick enough, that's considered an emergency. Pursuit of an actual or suspected perpetrator of a felony, in response to an incident dangerous to the public, and responding to but not from a fire call. And I have still yet to find out why that's even in 321 and 231.
What about misdemeanor instead of a felony? That would make it
Well,
doable.
Well, for us, we're gonna have to rely back on our department policy on that. Okay?
Again,
Some
don't
department.
forget that you can get called to a domestic that starts out verbal. Are you gonna wanna go slow to that because it could turn physical? Again, you wanna get there, and like I said, that's why that code section is kind of vague. You know, officers respond to calls differently. I can respond to a call on nights faster than he can on days, and maybe I can go 12 over the speed limit without using my lights, or he would have to use his lights going 5 over just based on the traffic. So all those things are in consideration, and for even misdemeanors, you can.
Okay, so 321, 231, that's what governs our actions, what we can and cannot do in emergency mode. Some other things are, we can exceed the speed limit so long as life and property are not endangered. So, for Dave working nights, running down Center Street at dark 30 in the morning at 70 miles an hour, he's probably okay with that because there's not much traffic out. Me working days, if I run down down Center Street at 70 miles an hour at noon, do you think I'm okay?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, I know you're strictly talking about the police department. What about the ambulances? Because I've seen some instances where they're finding
They
some
are under
stupid
the
stuff.
same stuff, and
Because I've seen
I'm
them
just-
run through stoplights and stuff, and I'm like, going, really, people?
I'm waiting for the day.
I mean, they're prepared for it. They got emergency equipment. but-
I'm waiting for the day. Because an ambulance almost T-boned me here a couple of years ago, right here at Center and State.
Who trains them?
I don't know.
Nobody.
Okay. I'm sorry, what was that?
People don't get over.
No. People are supposed to do a lot of things, but they don't.
I thought that was like.
So even if we follow all of the rules under 321-231, we must still drive with due regard for the safety of others. Okay, that is our utmost responsibility. So what is due regard? Well, it's very situation specific. Okay, you know, when Murphy comes along and raises his big ugly head and something bad happens, they're going to look at this due regard statement. Okay, so it's kind of defined as what a reasonable, careful operator performing similar duties under the same circumstances act in the same manner. So that's basically the jury of 12, your peers, citizens. Would they be doing the same thing if they were put into your shoes under those exact same circumstances? Would they allow or be able to justify doing that action? Okay. If the answer is yes, you're golden. If the answer is no, you're in trouble. So, level of culpability, violation must rise to the level of recklessness as opposed to negligence. So recklessness, okay, negligence would be
Not tending to it, not taking care of it.
right. You did something that was maybe a little bit on the risky side, but you didn't intend on anything to happen. Okay? Recklessness, on the other hand, is driving 100 miles an hour down Center Street at noon. Okay? Maybe 100 miles an hour, not even on Sunday. So anyway, that would be, considered recklessness. Blasting through a red light at 50 miles an hour. Because at 50 miles an hour, you're coming up to that red light, yeah, you're in emergency mode, you can run that red light. 321-231, state code says you can. Why can't we run it at 50 miles an hour?
It's reckless.
Well, it could be considered reckless. Because if you come up to that intersection, you need to make sure that it's clear for you to go. And if it's not clear for you to go, you better make sure that you can stop that car, if you have to.
Good question.
Okay, so what is recklessness? And this is Iowa criminal jury instructions. So if Murphy does raise his ugly head and you're doing something stupid, and you get sued, this is what the jury is going to look at as a guideline for any criminal matter that you may be looking at, or in a civil matter. A person is reckless or acts recklessly when they willfully disregard the safety of persons or property. It is more than a lack of reasonable care, which may cause unintentional injury. Recklessness is conduct which is consistently done with willful disregard for the consequences. For recklessness to exist, the act must be highly dangerous. So blasting through a red light at 50 miles an hour, that's pretty dangerous. In addition, the danger must be so obvious that the actor knows or should reasonably foresee that harm will more than likely result from the act. Though recklessness is willful, it is not intentional in the sense that harm is intended to result. Okay? So those are your jury instructions. So why recklessness? Well, this is an Iowa Supreme Court decision from 1995, Morse v. Leaf. It was down in Des Moines during a chase where the fleeing suspect ran into Morris's vehicle. Leaf was the bad guy. Ran into Morris's vehicle, and Morris got injured. Morris files suit against the city of Des Moines, saying that the officer shouldn't have been chasing because it was putting other motorists' lives in danger. So the Supreme Court came back and said, limiting personal liability for the consequences of high-speed chases to reckless rather than mere negligent conduct will provide for vigorous law enforcement without placing innocent bystanders at undue risk. Okay? So basically what they're saying here is we've still got to do our job. Okay? Our job is inherently dangerous. The Supreme Court said if we don't give them this little bit of leeway, they're not going to effectively be able to do their job.